The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber stretched high above the 12 ancient seats. Each chair was built for a different alien species, shaped to fit beings that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Today, the air buzzed with tension as Ambassador Zethkri of the Veltar Empire stood before the council. Zethkri was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like old leather. His forearms moved nervously as he spoke, holding data tablets in each hand. The Veltar loved rules and paperwork more than anything else in the universe. To them, every action needed proper forms, stamps, and approval from the right authorities. Honored Council, Zethkri began, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. We have a serious problem. The humans are breaking our laws. The other council members shifted in their seats. The insect-like hive queen clicked her mandibles. The energy being from Nexus Prime flickered brighter. The reptilian Siktar representative hissed softly. They had all heard whispers about these humans, but nobody paid much attention to one small species from a distant spiral arm. Council leader Morden, an ancient being made of living crystal, spoke in a voice that sounded like wind through caves. Explain these violations, Zethkri. The Veltar ambassador activated a holographic display. Images of human activities filled the air above the council floor. The humans have established colonies on 17 worlds without filing the proper expansion permits. They have created trade routes through restricted space zones. Worst of all, they are developing military technology without submitting blueprints for our review. The council chamber fell silent. For 50,000 years, no species had dared to expand without permission. The galaxy had been peaceful because the council controlled everything. New colonies needed approval. New technology needed inspection. New trade routes needed permits. This system had worked perfectly for millennia. How many humans are there? Asked the Hive Queen, her compound eyes reflecting the hologram's light. Approximately 8 billion on their homeworld of Earth, Zethkri replied. But they have spread to 17 other planets with over 40 million colonists. They reproduce quickly and seem to have no respect for proper procedures. The Eschatar representative, General Kracht, leaned forward. His people had once been great warriors, but the council had civilized them long ago. Now they served as administrators and peacekeepers. What weapons do they possess? Primitive nuclear devices, kinetic projectiles, and some basic energy weapons, Zethkri said. Nothing that should concern our fleets. But they build ships faster than any species we have encountered. Their technology advances without our guidance. Council leader Morden's crystal body pulsed with different colors as he processed this information. The council had maintained galactic order by controlling technological development. Species that advanced too quickly became dangerous. They needed supervision, guidance, and sometimes force to keep them peaceful. This cannot continue, Morden declared. Send them Directive 847 Alpha. They must cease all unauthorized expansion immediately. They must submit to technological audits. They must accept a council oversight committee to govern their future development. The other council members nodded in agreement. This was the standard procedure. A species got too independent. The council issued demands and the species complied. Sometimes it took a show of force, but it always worked. No species had ever refused the council's authority. Give them 30 standard days to comply, Morden continued. If they refuse, we will remind them why the galaxy has been peaceful for so long. Far away on the human colony world of New Brisbane, Captain Elena Vasquez wiped sweat from her forehead as she checked the final connections on humanity's most ambitious project. The faster-than-light communication array stretched across a valley between two mountains, its massive dishes pointing toward distant stars. Elena was a small woman with short black hair and calloused hands from years of engineering work. She had left Earth 15 years ago to help build humanity's first colonies. Like most colonists, she believed in humanity's right to spread among the stars without asking anyone's permission. How are we looking, Maria? Elena called to her assistant, who was monitoring the control systems from a nearby bunker. All systems green, Captain, Maria replied through the comm system. The quantum entanglement relays are synchronized. We should be able to contact any human settlement instantly, Elena smiled. This communication array would change everything. Until now, messages between human colonies took weeks or months to travel through normal space. With instant communication, humanity could coordinate their expansion and defend themselves much better. The project had taken 3 years to complete, using technology that human scientists had developed in secret. The council had no idea it existed. Elena preferred it that way. In her experience, asking for permission usually meant being told no. "Begin the test sequence," Elena ordered. The massive dishes began to move, aligning with precise coordinates. Energy flowed through the quantum relays, creating an invisible network that connected human settlements across light years of space. For the first time in history, a human colony could talk to Earth instantly. "Contact established with Luna Base," Maria reported. "Signal is clear and strong. Now try Mars colony." Mars colony responding. "Perfect signal." Elena felt a surge of pride. Humanity had built something amazing without any help from alien species or galactic authorities. They had done it themselves the way humans always did things. Unknown to Elena, a message was already traveling through space toward Earth. The Council's ultimatum would arrive in 18 days, demanding that humanity submit to alien rule. The communication array she had just activated would become humanity's most important weapon in the coming conflict. On the Council world of Veltar Prime, Ambassador Zethkri reviewed the files on human activities once more. Something about these humans bothered him, but he could not identify what it was. They seemed so confident, so sure of their right to do whatever they wanted. Most species, when they first encountered the Council, showed proper respect. They asked questions about procedures. They wanted to know the correct forms to fill out. They tried to follow the rules. Humans did none of these things. They simply acted and ignored the consequences. It was disturbing. Zethkri had spent his entire career managing the integration of new species into the galactic community. The process was always the same: contact, evaluation, regulation, and finally peaceful incorporation under Council oversight. Species that resisted faced economic sanctions first, then military intervention if necessary. But humans had skipped the entire process. They had spread across multiple star systems before the Council even knew they existed. They had developed dangerous technologies without supervision. They had built a civilization that ignored galactic law. This could not be allowed to continue. The Council's authority depended on maintaining control over all species. If humans were permitted to act independently, other species might start getting similar ideas. The careful order that had kept the galaxy peaceful for 50,000 years could collapse. Zethkri sealed the official documents and prepared them for transmission to Earth. Soon, the humans would learn that they lived in a regulated galaxy. They would discover that their independence was an illusion that the Council could end whenever it chose. The message pod launched from Veltar Prime, carrying humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization. It would be their last chance to join the community peacefully. After that, the Council would be forced to take more direct action. In the crystal chamber, Council leader Morden dimmed his internal light and entered a meditative state. He had overseen the integration of 47 species during his long existence. The humans would be number 48. They always chose integration in the end. The alternative was too terrible to contemplate. The message pod from the Galactic Council arrived at Earth's orbital defense station on a quiet Tuesday morning. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park was drinking her third cup of coffee when the sensors detected an unknown object approaching from deep space. "Something's coming in," Park announced to the control room. "It's not using any drive signature we recognize." Admiral James Rodriguez, head of Earth's Colonial Defense Force, was reviewing supply reports when the alert reached his office. By the time he arrived at the defense station, the alien pod had docked itself to the main airlock without any human assistance. "Sir, the object appears to be some kind of automated message delivery system," Park reported. "It's transmitting on multiple frequencies, including several we've never seen before." Rodriguez was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had spent 30 years in Earth's military, fighting in the resource wars that drove humanity to the stars. He knew the look of trouble when he saw it. "Download the message," he ordered. "Run it through every translator program we have." The message that appeared on the screens made everyone in the control room go quiet. It was addressed to the human species and came from something called the Galactic Council. The language was formal and cold, like a legal document written by people who expected to be obeyed. Rodriguez read the message 3 times before he understood what it really meant. The aliens wanted humanity to stop expanding. They wanted to inspect all human technology. They wanted to put alien supervisors in charge of human colonies. They were giving Earth 30 days to surrender its independence. "Get me President Chen on the secure line," Rodriguez said, "and send copies of this message to every colonial governor. They need to know what we're dealing with." President Chen was in a budget meeting when the call came through. She was a small woman with intelligent eyes and the kind of calm voice that made people listen. She had led Earth through the difficult years when humanity first reached other star systems. "How many species are in this council?" she asked after reading the alien ultimatum. "The message mentions 12 member species," Rodriguez replied from the secure video link. "They claim to have maintained galactic peace for 50,000 years. By controlling everyone else, apparently," Chen said. "What do we know about their military capabilities?" "Nothing concrete, but they're confident enough to give us orders, so they must have significant force backing up their demands." Chen called an emergency session of Earth's Leadership Council. Representatives from every major nation and colonial administration gathered in the secure conference room beneath UN headquarters. The alien message was displayed on the main screen, while military analysts presented their initial assessment. Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's chief xenobiologist, had spent her career studying the possibility of alien contact. She had dreamed of this moment, but not like this. "The message structure tells us a lot about these aliens," she explained to the assembled leaders. "They use bureaucratic language, formal procedures, and administrative threats. This suggests a species that values order and control above individual freedom." "What about their claims of maintaining galactic peace?" asked Colonial Governor Martinez from New Athens. "That's interesting," Dr. Kim replied. 50,000 years of peace sounds impressive, but it also suggests stagnation. True peace usually involves growth, development, and change. Perfect order maintained by force isn't peace, it's oppression. Admiral Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing human colonial territories. "We have 43 million colonists spread across 17 star systems. Our newest colony ship is already halfway to the Ross 128 system. If we comply with these demands, we abandon millions of our own people." President Chen studied the tactical display. Humanity had built something magnificent in just 50 years of interstellar expansion. Cities under alien suns. Farms on worlds that had never seen Earth life. Children born among distant stars who would never see humanity's birth world. "What are our options?" she asked. "We can comply with their demands," Rodriguez said. "Halt all expansion, submit to alien oversight, and hope they allow us to keep some level of autonomy." "Or," Chen prompted, "we refuse and prepare for war with an enemy we know nothing about." The room fell silent. Every person present understood the stakes. Humanity had fought wars before, but never against aliens with unknown technology and 50,000 years of experience. Colonial Governor Williams from New Brisbane spoke up. "My people didn't travel 23 light years to bow down to alien bureaucrats. We came here to be free." "Freedom has a price," said General Morrison from Earth's Strategic Command. "Are we prepared to pay it?" President Chen looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. She saw fear, but she also saw determination. These people had led humanity to the stars. They had built a civilization that spanned multiple solar systems. They were not going to give it up without a fight. "Dr. Kim," Chen said, "what does your analysis tell you about these council species?" "They've been in control for 50,000 years, Kim replied. "That suggests they're powerful, but it also suggests they're used to getting their way without resistance. They might not know how to handle a species that fights back." Admiral Rodriguez leaned forward. "Captain Vasquez's communication array just came online on New Brisbane. We can coordinate all our colonies instantly now. That gives us an advantage they don't know we have." Chen made her decision. "Draft a response to the Galactic Council. Tell them we appreciate their concern for galactic stability, but humanity respectfully declines their oversight." "Ma'am," Rodriguez said carefully, "they're not going to accept that." "I know," Chen replied. "Make sure our response reaches every human settlement at the same time we send it to the Council. Our people need to know we're standing together." The message was composed over the next 6 hours. Diplomats, military strategists, and linguists worked together to create humanity's first official communication with galactic civilization. The tone was polite but firm. The content was revolutionary. President Chen stood before the cameras in the UN Communications Center. Her words would be broadcast simultaneously to Earth, Mars, Luna, and every human colony among the stars. "My fellow humans," she began, "today we learned that we are not alone in the galaxy. We have received a message from a group calling itself the Galactic Council. They have offered to manage our civilization, to guide our development, and to ensure our peaceful integration into their galactic community." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "We have considered their offer carefully," she continued. "Humanity has always believed in cooperation and peaceful relations with all intelligent species. However, we also believe in the fundamental right of every species to determine its own destiny." The camera focused on Chen's face as she delivered the words that would change galactic history. "Therefore, we must respectfully decline the Council's oversight. Humanity will continue to expand among the stars as a free and independent species. We will develop our technology according to our own needs and values. We will build our civilization according to our own dreams and ambitions." Chen's voice grew stronger as she spoke the final words. "To the Galactic Council, we say this. We appreciate your concerns, but we don't ask for approval. We act." The message was transmitted instantly to every human settlement through Captain Vasquez's communication network. On 17 worlds, humans stopped their work to listen to their leader's words. Children born under alien suns heard for the first time that they were part of something larger than any single planet. The same message was loaded onto a high-speed probe and launched toward the coordinates the Council had provided. It would reach them in 12 days. On Earth, President Chen turned away from the cameras and walked to the window overlooking New York Harbor. In the distance, she could see the construction yards where humanity's newest starships were being built. "Admiral," she said to Rodriguez, "I hope you're right about our advantages, because we're about to find out what 50,000 years of galactic civilization looks like when it gets angry." Rodriguez joined her at the window. "Ma'am, we've been preparing for this our entire history. We just didn't know it yet." Ambassador Zethkri read the human response message for the 5th time, his 4 hands trembling slightly as he held the data tablet. In 300 years of diplomatic service, he had never seen anything like it. Species begged for more time. They offered compromises. They asked for clarification of the rules. They did not simply say no. "This is impossible," Zethkri muttered to his aide, a younger Veltar named Meshki. "No species refuses the Council's authority. It has never happened." Meshki checked his own records. "Perhaps they misunderstood the message, Ambassador. Their translation systems might be primitive." "No," Zethkri said, reviewing the response again. "Their language is clear. They understand exactly what we offered, and they have rejected it completely." Within hours, Zethkri stood once again before the Galactic Council. The chamber buzzed with agitated energy as he read the human response aloud. When he finished, the silence was absolute. Council Leader Morden's crystal body flickered through several colors before settling on angry red. "They refuse our guidance?" "Yes, honored leader. They claim the right to expand and develop without our supervision." The Hive Queen's mandibles clicked rapidly. "This is unacceptable. Order must be maintained." General Krakth of the Skatar leaned forward in his chair. His reptilian features showed the first real interest he had displayed in years. "What do we know about their military capabilities?" "Limited," Zethkri admitted. "Our intelligence suggests they have basic nuclear weapons and kinetic projectiles. Nothing that should concern our enforcement fleets." "Then we will teach them respect," Morden declared. "Assemble an enforcement squadron. 12 ships should be more than adequate for a single primitive species." Admiral Kezeth of the Veltar Navy received his orders with some confusion. He had not commanded a real military operation in over a century. The galaxy had been peaceful for so long that most Council fleets were used for ceremonial purposes and intimidation displays. Kezeth was old, even for a Veltar. His gray skin was darker than most of his species, marked by the scars of battles fought in his youth. He had been a warrior once before the galaxy became civilized and ordered. Humans, he said to his staff officers as they reviewed the target system. What do we know about them? Commander Velsh, his tactical officer, displayed a hologram of the human colony world called New Tasmania, population approximately 2 million. One orbital station, small defensive fleet consisting of 12 vessels of unknown design. 12 ships against 12 ships, Kezeth mused. Hardly seems fair, sir, Velsh asked. For the humans, Kezeth said with a laugh. Our ships are 3 times their size and have been perfected over thousands of years of engineering. This will be over quickly. The Veltar enforcement fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the New Tasmania system. Their ships were elegant and imposing, built to inspire awe and compliance. Each vessel was a work of art as much as a weapon, designed to show the galaxy the power and sophistication of Council civilization. Admiral Kezeth settled into his command chair aboard the flagship Dominion of Order. Around him, his bridge crew worked at stations that had barely changed in millennia. The Veltar believed in tradition and proper procedures above all else. Signal the human colony, Kezeth ordered. Standard surrender demand. On the human defense ship UES Defiant, Commander Sarah Hayes watched the alien vessels appear on her screens. Hayes was young for a ship commander, only 32, with red hair and green eyes that missed nothing. She had grown up on Mars and joined the Colonial Defense Force to protect humanity's expanding frontier. The alien ships were beautiful, she had to admit. They moved through space like dancers, their hulls gleaming silver against the stars. They were also clearly designed to intimidate anyone who saw them. 12 ships, reported Lieutenant Torres from the tactical station. Each one about 3 times our mass. They're not using any drive signatures we recognize. Are they armed? Hayes asked. Definitely. I'm reading multiple weapon systems, but the energy signatures are strange. Nothing like our weapons. The alien surrender demand came through on multiple frequencies. The message was polite but firm. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. The humans had 1 hour to comply. Hayes activated the ship's communication system, sending her response on the same frequencies the aliens had used. Alien vessels, this is Commander Sarah Hayes of the United Earth ship Defiant. You have entered human territory without permission. Leave immediately or face the consequences. On the Dominion of Order, Admiral Kezeth stared at his communication officer in disbelief. They told us to leave? Yes, sir. The message was quite clear. Kezeth had expected immediate surrender. Every species learned quickly that resistance was futile against Council forces. The sight of 12 Council warships was usually enough to end any conflict before it began. Signal the fleet, he ordered. Prepare to disable their ships. Use minimum force. We want prisoners for questioning, not martyrs. The battle began 3 minutes later. Commander Hayes watched the alien ships move into attack formation. They were graceful and coordinated, like a choreographed performance. They were also predictable. All ships, Hayes broadcast to the human squadron, execute pattern Delta 7. The human ships scattered in different directions, their smaller size and higher acceleration giving them an immediate advantage. The alien vessels, built for intimidation rather than combat, struggled to track multiple fast-moving targets. Hayes brought the Defiant around behind the alien flagship, using the planet's gravity well to increase her speed. Her ship's railguns fired tungsten projectiles at a significant fraction of the speed of light. The alien shields designed to stop energy weapons barely slowed the kinetic rounds. Direct hit on their command section, Torres reported. Their shields are down. Across the battlefield, human ships used tactics the aliens had never encountered. They fired and moved, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. They used the system's asteroids for cover, their sensor networks coordinating attacks from multiple angles. The alien ships, beautiful and sophisticated, proved to be poorly suited for actual combat. Their weapons were designed for precise, overwhelming force against stationary targets. When faced with fast, maneuverable opponents using unconventional tactics, they could not adapt quickly enough. Within 20 minutes, 6 alien ships were disabled and drifting. The remaining vessels began to retreat toward the system's edge. Admiral Kezeth sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the tactical display in shock. His fleet, pride of the Veltar Navy, had been defeated by a handful of primitive human ships. Sir, his communications officer reported, the humans are sending another message. What do they want now? Kezeth asked wearily. They're offering medical assistance for our damaged vessels. Kezith looked up sharply. What? The human commander is offering to send rescue ships to help with our wounded. She says they have medical facilities that can treat alien physiology. For the first time in centuries, Admiral Kezith felt something he had almost forgotten: surprise. In all his years of service, no enemy had ever offered to help Veltar wounded. The concept was completely alien to Council military doctrine. Accept their offer, he said quietly. 2 hours later, Kezith found himself aboard a human medical vessel, watching human doctors work to save Veltar lives. The humans used techniques he had never seen, adapting their medical knowledge to treat alien physiology with remarkable skill. Dr. Martinez, the human chief medical officer, approached Kezith in the corridor outside the treatment rooms. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and steady hands. Your people will be fine, she assured him. We've stabilized the critical cases and transferred them to our main medical facility on the planet. They'll receive the best care we can provide. Why? Kezith asked. We came here to conquer your world. We fired on your people. Dr. Martinez looked at him with genuine confusion. You're wounded. We're doctors. What else would we do? Kezith had no answer for that question. The surviving Veltar ships limped back toward Council space, carrying news that would shake the galaxy. For the first time in 50,000 years, a Council enforcement action had failed. More disturbing was how it had failed. The humans had not just won a battle. They had shown mercy to their defeated enemies. They had offered medical aid to people who had tried to destroy them. They had demonstrated a concept that Council civilization had almost forgotten, that strength and compassion could exist in the same species. Admiral Kezith sat in his quarters during the long journey home, writing his report for the Council. He tried to explain what had happened, but the words seemed inadequate. How could he describe a species that fought like warriors but healed like saints? The news of the defeat spread through the galaxy's ancient communication networks faster than the Veltar ships could return home. On a dozen worlds, suppressed species listened to whispered reports of the battle. Some dismissed it as impossible. Others began to wonder if the Council's authority was as absolute as they had been taught. In the Skatar military archives, old warriors who had been forced into administrative roles began to study ancient battle plans. The Hive Queens, their expansion halted for millennia, started calculating how many new colonies they could establish if Council oversight disappeared. News of the Veltar fleet's defeat reached the furthest corners of the galaxy within days. On worlds where species had lived under Council rule for thousands of years, beings gathered in secret to discuss something they had not spoken of in generations: resistance. In the underground warrens of Siktar Prime, General Kracht met with old soldiers who remembered when their people were warriors instead of administrators. The meeting took place in an abandoned military bunker, deep beneath the capital city where Council surveillance could not reach. Is it true? Asked Commander Hissak, whose scales bore the faded scars of battles fought before the Sikatar submitted to Council authority. Did the humans really defeat a Veltar enforcement fleet? General Kracht nodded grimly. 12 ships destroyed or disabled. Admiral Kezith barely escaped with his life. The assembled Eskatar warriors exchanged glances filled with something they had almost forgotten: hope. How many humans fought in this battle? Asked another commander. 12 ships, Kracht replied. Equal numbers, but the humans used tactics we have not seen in millennia. They fought like their ancestors once did, before the Council civilized us. On the hive world of Nexus 7, the insectoid queens communicated through pheromone signals that carried across vast distances. Their conversation would have been impossible for other species to understand, but it dealt with concepts that any suppressed people would recognize: freedom, expansion, and the courage to seize both. Queen Zakath, eldest of the hive mothers, released complex chemical messages that spoke of ancient memories. Before Council rule, her people had spread across hundreds of worlds, building vast cities and exploring the deepest reaches of space. Now they were confined to 7 planets, their population growth carefully controlled by alien bureaucrats. The younger queens responded with signals of their own. They spoke of new worlds waiting to be claimed, of star systems perfect for hive expansion, of the dreams their people had been forced to abandon. For the first time in 12,000 years, the hive queens began planning unauthorized expansion. In the Galactic Council chambers, the mood was very different. Ambassador Zethkri stood before his colleagues, his forearms gesturing frantically as he tried to explain the inexplicable. The humans should have surrendered immediately, he insisted. No species has ever resisted a Council enforcement action. It is unthinkable. Council leader Mordun's crystal body pulsed with angry red light. Yet it happened. Our most trusted fleet was humiliated by primitives who barely understand space travel. The energy being from Nexus Prime flickered with agitation. The other species are talking. We have intercepted communications from 17 worlds discussing the human victory. This cannot be allowed to spread, declared the Hive Queen who served on the council. Her own species did not know she existed, believing their queens had all been eliminated during their integration. If other species begin to believe resistance is possible, our entire system will collapse. General Krakth, the sole Esseskatar representative, remained silent during the discussion. His loyalty to the council was absolute, but something deep inside him stirred when he thought about the human victory. His people had once been as fierce as these humans. Perhaps they could be again. We must assemble the Grand Armada, Mordun announced. Every member species will contribute ships and soldiers. We will show the galaxy that the Council's authority is absolute. The Grand Armada had not been mobilized since the Integration Wars 12,000 years ago. When completed, it would consist of over 200 ships representing all 12 Council species. It would be the largest military force assembled in galactic history. How long will it take to prepare the Armada? Asked Zethkri. 6 months, replied Mordun. But it will be worth the wait. When we are finished with the humans, no species will ever question our authority again. On Earth, President Chen received reports from human intelligence networks throughout the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Kim had trained teams of linguists and xenobiologists to monitor alien communications, and their findings were both encouraging and terrifying. At least 7 species are showing signs of unrest, Dr. Kim reported during the emergency cabinet meeting. The Siktar are conducting secret military exercises. The Hive Queens are stockpiling resources for expansion. Even some of the energy beings from Nexus Prime are beginning to explore restricted regions of space. Admiral Rodriguez studied the tactical displays showing human defensive positions. That's the good news. The bad news is that the Council is preparing something called the Grand Armada. Our estimates suggest over 200 alien warships. President Chen felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Humanity's defiance had inspired other species to remember their freedom, but it had also provoked a response that could destroy them all. What about our own preparations? She asked. Captain Vasquez's communication network is operational across all human settlements, Rodriguez reported. We can coordinate our entire civilization instantly. Our shipyards are working around the clock to build new vessels. We have 47 ships now, with more coming online every week. 47 ships against 200, Chen mused. Those are not good odds. Ma'am, Rodriguez said carefully, I don't think we're going to win this war through superior firepower. Chen raised an eyebrow. What are you suggesting? The humans who fought at New Tasmania didn't win because they had better weapons. They won because they thought differently. They used tactics the aliens had never seen before. If we're going to survive the Grand Armada, we need to do something completely unexpected. Meanwhile, on colonies across human space, ordinary people were preparing for war in their own way. On New Brisbane, Captain Elena Vasquez worked with her team to build communication relays that could coordinate resistance activities across the galaxy. Her arrays were already picking up signals from alien worlds where suppressed species were organizing their own rebellions. Elena, called her assistant Maria from the control room, were getting a transmission from something called the Free Eschatar Movement. They're asking for technical assistance, Elena smiled. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their ships or their technology. It was their ability to inspire others to be free. On Mars, Dr. Sarah Kim worked with alien refugees who had been living secretly in human space for decades. These beings had fled Council worlds seeking something their own species had forgotten, the right to think and act independently. Tell me about the Council species, Kim asked Frexith, a former Veltar administrator who had abandoned his post rather than continue enforcing alien control over his own people. They are powerful, Frexith replied in broken human language he had learned during his years in exile. But they are also, how do you say, set in their ways. They have used the same methods for 50,000 years. And those methods have always worked, Kim observed. Until now, Vrex said, his four eyes focusing on her with something like hope. You humans do things differently. You make them confused, Kim nodded thoughtfully. Confusion could be a weapon if used properly. Across human space, defensive preparations continued at a frantic pace. New weapons were designed and tested. Ship crews trained for battles they might not survive. Colonial militias prepared for ground combat against enemies they had never seen. But the most important preparations were happening in secret communications between human agents and alien resistance movements. Species that had not spoken to each other in millennia were beginning to coordinate their efforts. The Eschatar military underground shared tactical information with human strategists. The Hive Queens provided intelligence about Council fleet movements. Energy beings from Nexus Prime used their natural abilities to disrupt Council communication networks. For 50,000 years, the Council had maintained control by keeping subject species isolated from each other. Now, for the first time, they were beginning to work together. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, looking out at the shipyards where humanity's newest vessels were taking shape. These ships were different from anything humans had built before. They were faster, more maneuverable, and designed specifically for the kind of warfare humans did best: hit-and-run tactics, improvised strategies, and the ability to adapt quickly to changing conditions. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're receiving transmissions from the Grand Armada. They're demanding our surrender." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Send them our standard response." The message that went out from Luna Station was brief and direct. Humanity does not surrender. If you want our worlds, come and take them. But Rodriguez had no intention of waiting for the aliens to arrive. While the Council spent months assembling their massive fleet, humanity would be spreading the revolution to every corner of the galaxy. The Grand Armada would find that their enemies were not confined to human space. They would discover that freedom, once awakened, could not be easily destroyed. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when an irresistible force met an immovable object. Sometimes, both sides were transformed by the collision. The Grand Armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of metal locusts. 237 ships representing 12 alien species created a formation so massive it blocked out stars. Council leader Mordoon stood aboard the flagship Eternal Order, his crystal body pulsing with satisfaction as he surveyed humanity's home system. "There," he said to the assembled alien commanders, "the birth world of the species that dared to defy us. Today we end their rebellion and restore order to the galaxy." Admiral Kezeth of the Veltar, still bearing scars from his encounter with human forces, studied the sensor readings with growing unease. "Something is wrong," he reported. "The system appears to be undefended." "What do you mean?" demanded General Siskatar, the reptilian military commander who had volunteered to lead the ground assault. "I detect no human ships in the outer system, no defensive installations, no military buildup. Earth itself shows normal civilian activity, but there are no signs of military preparation." Morden's crystal body flickered with confusion. Perhaps they have finally recognized the futility of resistance. But Kezeth's experience with humans made him suspicious. Or perhaps this is another trap. President Chen stood in the secure command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching the massive alien fleet on her displays. Around her, humanity's military leaders monitored communications from across the galaxy. "Phase 1 is complete," reported Admiral Rodriguez. "All human civilian populations have been evacuated to the prepared shelters. Our fleet is in position at the rally points." "What about our allies?" Chen asked. Dr. Sarah Kim smiled as she read the latest intelligence reports. "The Free Sector movement has begun their uprising on 14 worlds. The Hive Queens have launched expansion fleets to reclaim their ancestral territories. The energy beings from Nexus Prime are disrupting Council communication networks across 3 sectors." "And our special surprise?" Chen asked. Rodriguez checked his chronometer. "Captain Vasquez confirms that all communication arrays are synchronized and ready. When we give the signal, every human settlement in the galaxy will coordinate simultaneously." On the flagship of the Grand Armada, Council leader Morden prepared to broadcast humanity's final ultimatum. The message would be transmitted to every human world, demanding immediate and unconditional surrender. "Citizens of Earth, Mordun began, his voice carrying the authority of 50,000 years of galactic rule. You have defied the lawful authority of the Galactic Council. You have corrupted other species with your rebellious ideas. You have brought chaos to a galaxy that has known peace for millennia. The crystal being paused for effect, his body pulsing with righteous anger. We offer you one final chance to submit. Surrender immediately, and we will be merciful. Continue your resistance, and we will demonstrate why no species has ever successfully opposed us. The response came not from Earth, but from 47 different locations across the galaxy simultaneously. President Chen's voice reached the Grand Armada from human colonies, alien worlds where revolutions had begun, and secret bases that the Council had never discovered. Members of the Galactic Council, Chen began. You speak of peace, but what you have created is not peace. It is the silence of the grave, the stillness of a prison, the quiet of species too frightened to dream. Her words echoed across communication networks that had been built in secret over months of preparation. Today, that silence ends. Today, the galaxy remembers what it means to be free. The first attacks came not against the Grand Armada, but against Council installations on member worlds. HFY warriors, using weapons they had hidden for generations, seized control of military bases on their homeworld. Hive Queens launched simultaneous assaults on Council administrative centers across 7 systems. Energy beings disrupted power grids and communication networks on every Council world. In the space around Earth, Admiral Rodriguez executed the most audacious military strategy in human history. Instead of defending their homeworld with a massive fleet, humanity had scattered their forces across the galaxy. Now those forces struck everywhere at once. Human ships appeared from hyperspace near every major Council world, not to conquer territory, but to broadcast a simple message. We are here. We are free. Join us. The psychological impact was devastating. For 50,000 years, Council species had believed their authority was absolute. Now human ships danced between their defenses, proving that nowhere was safe from those who refused to submit. On the Veltar homeworld, Captain Elena Vasquez led a squadron of human ships in a precision strike against the planet's main communication hub. But instead of destroying it, they hijacked the broadcasting system. People of Veltar, Elena transmitted to the entire planet. You have lived under Council rule so long you have forgotten what choice means. We offer you a different path. Stand up, think for yourselves, be free. Similar messages went out from human forces across the galaxy. Not threats of conquest, but invitations to liberation. Council leader Mordun watched in horror as reports flooded in from across Council space. Rebellions on 37 worlds. Human forces attacking installations that should have been impossible to reach. Communication networks compromised by enemies who seemed to be everywhere at once. How is this possible? He demanded. Admiral Kezeth understood before anyone else. They never intended to defend Earth, he said quietly. This entire system is bait. While we gathered our forces to attack their homeworld, they scattered across the galaxy to attack ours. The scope of human strategy became clear as more reports arrived. Humanity had spent months infiltrating Council space, building alliances with suppressed species, and identifying critical infrastructure targets. When the Grand Armada moved against Earth, human forces struck everywhere the Council least expected them. But the most devastating attack was yet to come. On New Brisbane, Captain Vasquez activated the master control for humanity's communication network. Every array, every relay, every hidden transmitter across the galaxy synchronized for a single massive broadcast. The message went out simultaneously to every populated world in Council space. It was not a military transmission, but something far more dangerous. The simple truth about what life could be like for free people. Images of human colonies showed cities where different species worked together as equals. Videos from Earth displayed art, music, and literature created by beings who were free to express themselves. Children from dozens of species played together in schools where they learned to think rather than obey. Most powerfully, the broadcast included testimonials from alien refugees who had found new lives in human space, Veltar administrators who had become teachers, HFY warriors who had remembered their pride, Hive Queens who had learned to value individuals as well as the collective. This is what freedom looks like. President Chen's voice accompanied the images. Not chaos, not violence, not the end of civilization. Freedom is the chance to grow, to dream, to become something more than what others expect you to be. The broadcast lasted only 30 minutes, but its effects rippled across the galaxy for generations. On council worlds, species that had forgotten they had choices began to remember. Young aliens who had never known anything but submission asked their elders why they had accepted such limitations. Administrators who had spent their lives enforcing alien rules began to question the system they served. The Grand Armada found itself trapped between human forces that attacked and withdrew like ghosts and rebellions erupting on their own homeworlds. Council leader Morden gave increasingly desperate orders to his scattered fleets, but coordination was impossible when communication networks were compromised and local commanders faced revolts on their own planets. The final blow came when General Sikatar, the reptilian commander who was supposed to lead the assault on Earth, instead broadcast his own message to the Armada. "I have served the Council for 40 years, he announced. "I have enforced their peace, maintained their order, and suppressed the dreams of my own people. Today I remember what it means to be SS Qatar." His flagship broke formation and jumped to hyperspace, heading not for Earth but for his homeworld, where he would lead the liberation of his own species. Within hours, commanders from 6 different species had abandoned the Grand Armada to help their own people throw off Council rule. The massive fleet that had been assembled to crush human resistance dissolved as its components scattered across the galaxy to fight for freedom. Council leader Morden found himself alone aboard the Eternal Order, his crystal body flickering between colors as he tried to process what had happened. In a single day, 50,000 years of galactic order had collapsed. The final message came from President Chen, transmitted directly to the Council flagship. "Leader Morden," she said, "we bear you no hatred. You believed you were maintaining peace, and perhaps in your way you were. But peace built on submission is no peace at all. It is merely the absence of hope." Chen's image appeared on Morden's screen, her face showing compassion rather than triumph. "The galaxy is changing," she continued. "Species are remembering what it means to be free. You can fight this change and be swept away by it, or you can adapt and find your place in a galaxy where beings choose their own destiny."